my son here for I've been there 13 years and I found these buried intact.
Gonna call the meeting to order.
For you? They still work for you?
Oh, yeah, 125.
Yeah.
All right, meeting.
All right, meeting has begun, so it started at 7 o'clock, and gonna run through the agenda, which is to approve the agenda in the minutes. And we have two pending applications, one for the MLJ school expansion, and the other is Motorland, a revision of the site plan visit. And then one new application, which is 784 Alfred Road for site plan reapplication. And if we have time, we'll continue with the review of the new land use ordinance. So,
Marty Kane, run a roll call, that's it.
before we do, let's do the approval of the agenda, then we'll do that.
Okay, I'll vote, move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion, all in favor?
The
Discussion.
discussion part, yes, section 5, land use ordinance revisions.
Yeah.
I think there's gonna be several, I'm not sure what John found. But without Ted here, does the board think we can make it very clear what we want?
I think we need to wait for Chad.
Yeah, I think so too.
I would-
He'll be the one making.
I don't think there'd be any harm in discussing anything among us, but in terms of making any decisions, I would wait for Chad.
Okay, so my suggestion is that we not do item 5 tonight and leave it for the next meeting.
I'll second that.
Well, so change to the approval of the agenda with that modification.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that, it's a motion. Okay, any other changes needed? Okay, all in favor? With that one removed, good. Okay, now we'll do the roll call.
Marty Kane.
Bob Coon?
James Lauer.
Tom McGinn,
John McKinnon.
Roger Moore.
okay. And we're gonna just do the approval of the minutes first. So we have two meetings we have minutes for. We'll do the older one first, it's September 10th. I think we're all here for that. Are you ready yet?
Yep, we did last time, yeah, we just didn't have a quorum. So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Roger second. Any discussion? Any questions needed? Hearing none, all in favor? It's unanimous, good. And then the next one was September 24th, the last meeting.
Move to approve as written.
Second on that?
None.
Good, Marty second. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
I'm abstaining.
I'll abstain. Yeah, okay, that passes. Now we can move on to the school expansion. We have the determination of completeness tonight. So this is a proposal to reconstruct MLJ school campus renovation of a portion of the existing buildings, 24,045 square feet building expansion, and relocated parking and recreational facilities on a 9.59 acre parcel building located at 600 Limerick Road, map 17, lot 25, in the R2 district. RSU 21 is the owner applicant, and Frank Crabtree of Harriman Associates is the owner's agent. So we will
I think it would be appropriate to do a very brief presentation. You all read over the application.
Use a blue check.
Might be able to cover it. And if not, I'll stand here with it.
No, that's all right.
we're tucking it.
That's okay, I'm fine. Okay. Seen that.
Put the focal stick behind that, Bob. Hey, put the focal stick behind that and try to lead it up straight. Plan A, plan B, plan C.
Hey, there you go.
No way.
I got it done.
Okay, so, there you go.
We don't have a skyhook, but
So you've been in a few times, and you, Are there any changes since we've last seen?
There's nothing substantial, it's just a little bit more complete engineering, full packet that you have now before you.
Okay. Last time, I know we've gone over this a lot, so I don't know if we need the full
Do you want to know the presentation?
presentation.
Folks in the audience, I don't know.
Anyone in the audience interested in the presentation? The planning board has heard it before, so. And I must say that the concerns that I had were all addressed in the packet that we received. I had some site distance concerns and some parking lot circulation concerns, and those were all addressed to my satisfaction.
And we did send to Tad the full site law application and plans, so you should have that in-house, so anyone wants to review that.
So can I ask, what correction you made to correct the site distance
We
issue?
didn't make any corrections, we
No,
had it measured.
Just didn't have it
I
there.
had a question
Oh, you
on
did
it,
have-
but they actually did the measurements and it comes out fine.
Okay,
And then, driving up again and just looking at it, eyeballing it, it looks okay. It's just you have that impression
Yeah.
that there's a problem.
It
But
feels
there is
uncomfortable,
quite,
but it's not.
there's quite a bit of distance there, plenty of site distance.
any,
You had mentioned applying for a site location
Yes.
application. Is that a new application?
No, it's an amendment to an existing one. This was originally approved under site law in 1974.
Okay.
That's it. I'd like to make a motion that we consider the submission requirements for the plenary site plan review complete.
Second that.
second on that, discussion? This is, to the audience, this is something we've gone over several meetings already, so we just, a few minor things that we had questions on and it's been resolved, so.
A few minor things about each thing.
Well, we
Since
still,
last-
when we get
2 weeks
into that,
ago,
right.
this just means they've submitted all the
Right.
things they have to. It doesn't,
So this isn't
Mean that we
approving,
we agree with 100% of what's
Yeah.
there yet.
so the plan is
You've
is
submitted
ready.
everything we should need to make a decision.
So, any other discussion on that?
I'll
Okay.
second that motion.
Oh,
then.
it's
Mark
not here.
Martinez already.
Second. So, all in favor then of completion? None opposed? So then, now the next stage would be the formal review for final approval. Tad will have to schedule, we don't do that right now, do we?
Well,
We don't
I
have-
would say we should instruct Tad to schedule it at the nearest opportunity.
Yeah.
Could
Yeah,
you do
we'll
Yeah,
that?
because they're trying to do a deadline.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so you'll have, you've been in touch with Ted, and you'll have to put that in the next agenda. I don't see.
Well, your next
any
one is
reason
usually a workshop. Do you hear?
Yeah, but I think we want to do it the next available way, if you guys are going to be ready.
Yeah, generally, when the board sees no issues beforehand with the application, you can have a public hearing and then a meeting on approval at the same meeting, so. If we can squeeze that in for our next planning board meeting, Tad will do that. It depends, he has some timing
Some
issues in
posting
terms of
issues
advertising.
with the paper and stuff.
So,
And maybe the next one, maybe not.
That's fine. Okay.
do we need a motion for that public
No.
hearing? That just has to
No.
happen anyways.
That's just being passed on to someone to do.
Board member.
Okay. Yeah, generally, we have it all back to back, and
Okay.
there may be some residents that will have some interest in this. Okay, so you ready to move on then to the next, the final review, next meeting?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So
That was
we'll
quick.
notify, we're kind of notified, it'll be next meeting. or two.
Yeah, so we'll let Tad know that.
I'd also like to thank you, your paperwork was outstanding.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, every area was covered, it was
Yeah,
Yeah.
not always there.
which is why this portion of the meeting is so brief.
That's what we try to do. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, so next is Motorland, which is a revision of a plenary site plan permit. It's a proposal to subdivide the former county connection complex into 2 lots, removing parking area and lighting fixtures from the display parking lot located on a 8.94 acre parcel at 1564 Portland Road, tax map 2, lot 1, in the B1 BI district. Neil Griffith of Caribou, Maine is the applicant and owner. So,
I'm hoping we have a presentation on this.
Yeah,
You
I
have-
got it broken in,
because
if you don't mind.
It's a little bit
And- and
confusing,
I'll-
so I would like to hear from the applicant.
Sure, so, does everybody have a map?
Yep.
So, what we're looking at is, there is 8.9 acres, added, survey done with wetland study on this. And this is how,
One moment, your name so we can record.
oh, sure, Ed, Thursday. And we're-
briefing or, that's a Griffith, briefing or Griffin?
It's Griffith.
Griffith, okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
Ready? Okay, all right. So a survey's been done, wetlands has been done, this is what the outcome has been, is the 4 acres or 4.9. Motorland currently leases the building that is right now there, and would be under that 4.9 acres. Tim is here representing Motorland. He's purchasing that building from Griffith. The subdivision of the lots is crucial for Tim to be able to buy this because of the additional amount that he would have to pay to get this done. So Neil Griffith has agreed to subdivide that off. Let him buy 4.9 and keep 4 acres. So what we're looking at is right where the paved parking is right there, if you look at that map, it actually crosses over, and we're hoping to get an easement for parking right there and create a buffer. And just so you know, we met with Tad on August 6th, and Tad's recommendation was to get the easement and just to do it a buffer 8 feet beyond that property line with a fence, 8-foot fence along the blacktop versus removing the blacktop and the lighting. And some of the things that he brought up were under consideration would be the property line, the coverage, and the lighting that comes off the poles right there. He asked me to call Jim, and I don't have the last name, but Jim originally worked on consulting when this was put together on this particular lot. And the existing light poles and lights, each one of those can be controlled individually. So to get to that 5.5 illumination, each one of them can be controlled, they can be dimmed, they can be turned off. Motorland is not going to be using lights after 4 o'clock, period. I don't think they're using lights at all anyways right now, that's out there currently. So what we're looking for is the ability to subdivide this off into 4.9, into 4 acres, get a buffer that will be put up with a fence, 8-foot fence, that'll be 50% coverage versus 30. And that's it.
Okay, well, this is a little unusual because, Tad had, I don't know if you saw some of his comments, I think it's something you just mentioned.
No, I've been, I know he's been sick, and that he and I have had a hard time connecting
Yeah.
since last week, so.
You should give him a copy.
Do you have an extra copy of that to give him?
I have a copy here, I can provide you my copy.
Okay.
You're talking about the memo from Tad?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. It seems to me, I have no problem subdividing, I understand it's probably a monetary issue and all that, but it seems to me life would be so much simpler if you would move the line, scooch it around a little bit to include the parking lot rather than running it through the parking lot. Is there a reason why you're running the
Just
proposed
squaring it
line?
off, it was just, it was squared off, it was just,
Well, it is squared off, but it causes so many other difficulties. I think if you were
Could do
able
that.
to move it around,
Yeah.
you
Move the
could
back
solve
line
the
in.
potential lighting problem, and you could more easily do the buffering and so forth.
The thought that what came to mind,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to speak for them, was if they were required to have 200 feet of frontage
Yeah.
on the L-shaped lot,
Yeah.
would be, was,
Yeah.
was, what I thought the same thing,
Yeah,
John.
it's
and
only
that was
201.
my thought, is that it was, they had to do that for frontage reasons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How far does that frontage have to be? Can it be?
200
feet.
200, you have
That's serious.
201.
I didn't
So
But
you don't have
can you
enough
go and then
road.
jog in and then,
It has to be along the road, 200 feet.
how far
Yeah.
back though from the road?
But the parking lot, there's, if you see on the map, it's
Yeah.
201 feet.
Yeah.
And then you go in about, I don't know, 10 or 15 feet before you hit the parking lot.
Uh-huh.
So to your question, can that 200 frontage still be allowed and jog it out, 15 feet in?
I think, I don't know, I don't think we ever had that one before, but I think we probably could do that.
An option, we'll have to get some.
Well, what's the setback?
That's all parking lot, you hit the other side of the parking lot, you're gonna have the same illumination problem.
A little bit to run it up and maybe move the property line.
But the- Go right up.
Yeah,
So
just do a little
They're
go around.
discussing, yeah, a little jog around.
Then move this back line in.
Just move it, yeah, to make
Like
the
that.
area be the same.
I would praise
Just think
either,
about
my
this parking.
biggest concern kind of going through this is right in line, I think. And I was glad to hear that you have the controllable lighting. But for me to make a decision, I'd want to make sure that you can control it down to meet the town standard. So,
Or how about if the buyer concedes to not having the lights on after 4 PM? Deeded that way. They'll never, Tim?
We've been there a year and we haven't turned them on once.
So,
the original proposal was for security, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
and that's going back to,
That's-
yeah,
that's
that's
right.
Greg Griffith and Neil Griffith and
That's not us.
yeah,
I
that's,
realize that, but that was part of the original
right.
proposal and plans and everything else. But also too, as the buffering thought I have too, as we had done, or buffering or landscaping and everything else, how we had done between Arundel Market, not Arundel Market, Rainbow Market, and they had a common area. So it turned out it eliminated per se anything of fencing or anything else back when it was established. That might turn out to be another alternative.
Well, the problem with that is there's no use in that subdivided parcel, so
Gotta be,
how can you create a common area when you
Yeah.
have nothing to have it in common with yet?
it's gotta be,
It's still, it's still,
yeah, it's gotta be coordinated between the two uses in a drive. So I agree with what you're saying. If there was a use over here, that would resolve the whole issue. But there's not.
I don't see, truthfully, ordinance or not, I'm just looking at the common thought of, right now, it's open, and there's not an issue. Why do we have to put up a fence to turn on, to separate a vacant lot?
I agree, and I don't know if it's an option for, like we did at Rainbow Market, they had a mutual agreement.
Right.
They agreed that
Correct.
this
I mean,
would work, so maybe that.
I mean, but like I said, what are we turning on, putting up a fence for, not to see a vacant lot?
If-
I mean,
Well,
and the other purpose of it also too, for common sense, okay? If you're plowing, where you gonna plow, turn around, plow into the fence and knock the fence over? I mean,
Yeah, but it is a requirement of the ordinance.
well, guess what? Some of these requirements are not common.
yeah, but Marty, we have to think about what might go on the other land too.
Well-
They may not always be the owners, there may be another owner, this is another owner.
I realize that, but guess what? We don't have crystal balls.
Can I ask a question? So Neil owns all this. He's gonna control the 4-acre lot. He's not got any plans for it right now. So the 4-acre lot's gonna be empty. If he does anything to that 4-acre lot and comes to the planning board, can't the planning board at that time address what the buffer would be?
No, not really, because once we give approval, we can't make someone do something.
Tear it down.
If the new owners, they might have a problem with it, but we can't then say, well, we renege on our approval, and you have to now put up a fence. That wouldn't be fair either.
Let's say a residence goes in there,
Yeah,
Can't be.
right, we can't ask the residents to put up a buffer, to buffer themselves from the business.
got it.
Can't have the BI turn out a resident in there.
Unless it's user owner.
Yeah.
Operator.
There are, you have no plans at this point for that remaining parcel, right? Because there are things you can do with that that would allow for less than 200 feet, but that would be residential. That's something called an estate lot, where you could have a residence out back with a very small frontage.
I don't know if that would be allowed behind.
BI.
I think BI allows for residents only if you have
I
a
think
business.
there's
security
there are
purpose.
estate lots anywhere.
If,
It would be security
I
purpose.
think it's,
It's not,
if it's an accessory to a business.
Right, correct.
Yeah,
And the,
then it's not purely residential.
Right, yeah.
So that
But I think-
exemption wouldn't apply.
well, so, you know, again, this is, you're the applicant, and the ordinance allows that the landscaping may consist of fences, walls, trees, planting, hedges, or a combination. So if you propose the fence, you'd be in line with the ordinance. If you took the suggestions of the other, but that may give us a lighting issue. Don't know, because we'd need to verify that light. If you were to move that line and jog it around that parking area a little bit, if you did have a lighting problem, that would be a lot cheaper than doing those poles and getting a new illumination plan and all of the rest of that.
Got it. Or the poles can be removed.
They
Those-
certainly could,
Those
yeah.
3 could be removed.
Yeah, and that would take care of that issue.
Well,
As long as the rest of them.
Right, the rest of them are would remain in work.
Well, you're gonna have a dark spot in the parking lot. That's the
Which-
problem.
All right with us.
and it seems to be,
Well,
it
but
seems
no,
to be
because
already.
we've got lighting standards that, you know, have uniformity provisions and things along those lines.
To what extent though, because there are some poles that are, what,
Well, right.
30, 40 feet beyond
Well,
that.
we just went through a project where we had to sort of make an assessment on
And that's-
the lights that they were proposing and whether they were satisfactory to meet the lighting requirements. So, you know,
Is it consistent lumens, or is it just that it doesn't
it doesn't
exceed?
overshadow.
both.
Well,
There's both?
Would you, yeah,
Okay.
both.
It's 5.0 or 0.5, right? Yeah, 0.5.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what if we go back and Tim is willing to not have the lights on after a certain hour, which would eliminate any issues of lighting?
Well,
That becomes an enforcement issue.
Well, it depends on the business hours, I would imagine. Is your business open after dark?
No,
It is
it's
not.
hard to see anything after dark.
well, what are
Unless
our
you walk around
parking
with a
lots?
flashlight.
On
all cars.
Lighting standards for parking lot?
Part of the problem with that is you may have no intention right now to ever have lights on, but you sell it, and the next person has no idea about that, and the light switch is there.
Put in the deed?
Even that, a deed can easily be forgotten after a while. If the lights are there, it's hard not to ever use them. And then it becomes an enforcement issue.
And then the winter ones gets dark at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, when I'm on at 3:30. I'm all right with removing the pole, those right, left side pole, but I don't know if, you guys said it has to,
What I would like to see, if anything else, see the. what they
Parking
have.
area lighting shall meet the
hold on,
following
let-
illumination levels and uniformity. So we've got the height, we've got the foot candles, the uniformity ratio, and the minimum coloring rendering, which is only 20 in that area, so that ought to be measured at the darkest spot on
Well, if you
the
take,
maximum, there's a maximum illumination level, which is measured at the darkest spot. So if they had none, they'd be fine. But the uniformity ratio is the ratio of the average illumination to the minimum. So that would reduce the overall uniformity, right?
right,
The
so
illumination.
my
you
question
have a dark
is,
spot, yes.
is what area would be included in that? If they have,
The paved area.
does it say the entire,
Yeah, parking area lighting.
okay.
And then the color rendering, that should be okay, so.
What section is
A
that?
lighting guide maybe at page 70 of,
That's the old one or the
yeah,
new one?
75B3. It didn't change.
Well, my question really is, are there lighting requirements if the hours of operation are not, do not include after dusk? I'm not sure about that, we've never had that.
I don't
remember. I'm surprised that the ordinance addressed
They're not directed and it produced a serious number, right?
So-
The other question that I have,
Because public access parking lots do have to be lit and do have to follow these standards, but.
Yeah, they change
businesses-
this off, so it's not open to the public when they close.
Well, it is when they're doing business, that's why I'm asking about hours of operation, right?
What
Sorry.
it does say, John, is when an application for conditional use approval contains outdoor lighting installation or replacement, this would be removal, the planning board shall review and approve the lighting installation as part of the application. Installation or replacement of 2 or fewer lighting fixtures may be approved by the code enforcement officer, provided that no single lamp bulb exceeds 150. So the code enforcement officer, see, we haven't done it because for this minor thing, that may be just a code issue that you can resolve with the code enforcement on. We want to take off two.
There's 3 of them
Is
here.
that how you read it? Oh, but I thought they were only
We're gonna-
proposing to take out 2.
2 on the end, but what my question was, I was trying
Wait,
to
though,
get-
you did say 3 here.
There's 3
second,
down
but I
there,
wrote
but
2.
they're offset, so it's the 2 on the end that are the closest to the property line.
Yeah, the middle
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Well, let me
Let me give Marty a chance to say,
Maybe if you would find that.
yes, Marty?
You see, under the lighting plan that was approved for this particular parking lot,
Mhm.
if the lighting plan shows the reduce of the 2 far posts along the property line, what would the illumination be? That's all I'm saying, reconfiguring
We'd
the,
have to require a new study.
Yeah, that's what we were saying, that if they provided us that and it met all of the standards, it'd be fine.
It would cover
You
it.
may have to do that, my recommendation, one, talk with Tom Leonard and the code enforcement.
I get a feeling though, the one in the middle,
No, but they only removed 2.
I mean, I'm.
wouldn't the one in the middle spill over though?
No, but it won't spill over onto the property, but the more if everybody is so worried about light pollution, on the property, for the abutter, okay, the two ones next to the property line, that's the 2 I'm talking about. So leave everything else alone.
Illumination would be halfway out. So this end of the parking lot's gonna be dark. That's the problem.
Well, you're talking about
But
removing the
but the-
2 on the front and rear.
But the requirement.
But then there's the one in
is-
between, that might be 20 feet from the property line.
The 2 in the.
That's probably gonna be spilling, that's what my guess is, but.
Which-
There's the one, it has the words light pole typical,
It's probably the one, if they were.
right in the. in between those two.
I'm not worried about whether,
Oh, right? Oh,
Well, that should have light on it.
yeah, that's fine. But then if you have the two ends,
Now you got the two lights there.
two ends, next to the property line.
Am I seeing something different than everybody
No,
else? I see three
I see
lights.
This one,
Yeah,
That one right
yeah,
there.
no, I missed it.
Yep, there is one there at the end. That will spill over. I
So
think.
you can't go to code enforcement, it's gotta be done.
Will it spill over if they can, if they direct it and put a cutoff fixture on it?
It can be redirected.
Well,
Right,
they,
that would-
and
that
they
would work.
should, and they should have that, and so
Right.
that'll get me right back to where we started. If you can get your electrical guy to just do new plans showing what the impact of moving that light is, I would
Right.
have no problem with that.
Right.
The ordinance kind of, although I'm not sure it's the best option, allows a fence where you could re-jog.
Well, we have several issues, and this, the reason for this particular hearing is to bring up these issues so we can address them when we go to the formal hearing. So, well, I think you have a couple of things to check out. A, you can, possibly redirect the lights, you'd have to show us a new lighting plan. You might be able, through the code enforcement officer, to just turn them off and it would be okay. Or, what was the last one?
Well, maybe three that's not using them after dark.
Oh, yeah,
I
and
don't know.
whether we have any way to not have a lighting plan at all if the hours of operation are not after dark, do not include
Right,
after dark.
is that part of the CEO though? Would that be?
No, that's part of the planning board, we have to look at that ourselves.
I haven't been able to find any authority for changing
Right,
that, and that's why I came in with the idea that if I got the lighting plan itself adjusted, I'd feel comfortable, but I didn't read every.
Well, I get the feeling, and we're looking for ways that this might work, but I have the feeling that it's a parking lot,
Yeah.
they have lights there,
Right.
it must meet
Yeah.
that point. That
For the
doesn't say anything
spillover on the
about
property.
hours of operation in
I
there.
think so too.
So I think we're stuck with the lights maybe on at some point, so I think the other options are maybe, if you could redirect that one
Or
left.
if they redid the fence line, or the boundary line, to go to
That-
the end of the
that would
thing.
buffer the
We
line.
already have the lighting plan that says that's sufficient, right? No,
Well, but
no,
it's not
because that
200
would
feet
spill
to the
over,
right.
that would spill over to the next
Yeah.
property.
That's why I also said that.
So it really needs a whole new lighting study. Yeah.
Good point.
Then we also have the issue,
the final option, I guess, I don't know how expensive that is, but remove the lighting altogether, all of it.
All lighting?
well, you put new ones in?
No, remove it. If they're not gonna be operating after dark.
Well, that's what I'm wondering if,
Well,
I don't know.
and this is, there's a section in the ordinance that I think we've got to clarify with Ted what section we may have previously referred to before this, it may have been a reference. Because it says, except for lighting meeting the standards of section 5.10.B.4. I can't put my hands on what that is right now. Exterior display areas shall be illuminated only when the establishment is open for business. So to me, that gives a little bit of leeway
Right.
against the other sections of the ordinance that says areas designated as exterior display shall be illuminated to whatever, it says, or areas designated as parking or passive vehicle storage shall be illuminated to whatever standard. But
Could you read that again? It doesn't make sense to me.
Like,
except for lighting meeting the standards of section 5.10.B.4. And that's what I don't see.
Yeah.
We've got to figure out where that may have been in the old ordinance. Exterior display / sales areas, which I would imagine
Which would be,
this would cover, shall be illuminated only when the establishment is open for business. To me, that's about the one thing I see in our ordinance
loophole.
that gives us some leeway to say, oh, maybe you don't need it.
Right. We have to investigate that, but because the planning board hasn't done that before, but that may be a
Right.
good option for us.
That's, very uncommon in a type of facility like this. you know, where car dealerships want more and more and more light, you know, so
Safety.
it's just different than
Different
what,
type of
what
car
we're used to
dealership.
seeing. Oh, I totally understand.
Safety, what I was speaking of, is not safety of somebody walking around, safety of vandalism. This is where I'm going at, because if it's dark, somebody can turn around and it can't be seen sucking something up out of these older cars,
Right.
and that's dollars and cents.
I have
We've not, it's been a year, we haven't had any issues. I understand what you're saying, and
Yeah.
it seems to be a catch-22.
Let's put it this way, you never know,
I
okay?
mean, the only vandalism and theft we've had has been in broad daylight with our security camera. So,
Yeah, but you give me an example, okay, you look at Weirs, okay? You know, they have the lights and everything else. Of course, at least the cameras turn around and can catch anybody
Right.
ramming around or doing some vandalism with the lights.
Mike, I gotta move on, 'cause that doesn't affect this application.
What, lights?
I would say,
It's
I'm talking
their
about
choice whether they want to have security lights or not. But I do have a question. Have you approached the abutting property owner?
Yeah.
To the right side?
Yeah, south, about maybe buying 40, 50 feet.
Oh,
That
oh,
side.
for the 200-foot
Yeah,
buffer?
because that
No.
could,
that's a non-option, believe me.
it's not, okay.
No.
Yeah, no, I haven't done that.
That private road into there is his only access. We're not gonna see him.
So that won't work, okay.
No, you're not, we're talking Ray Gonville. Ray doesn't use that as access. He uses, that's somebody else who uses that back there. I forget his name, but.
Across the street.
So, just so I've got this, option number 1 is redirecting the lights
Right.
to allow a lesser illumination over spilling into that 4-acre lot. Number 2 option would be if we can get around the hours of operation, correct?
Right.
What's option 3?
Move the boundary line.
Removing the
Remove the
poles and have a new lighting
Lighting.
plan?
Lighting
Yeah.
plan, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing to look at is whether things would be much easier if you were able to move the boundary line to include that parking lot.
Well, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, you wouldn't
That's-
have to write an easement, or, I don't know of any restrictions that would not allow you to do it, but there may be something buried in there.
Okay, so by moving that, I don't need to worry about the easement. All we would be worried about then is the buffer, right, for that parking
Mhm.
and the lighting. And just move the easement out of
Do you
there.
remember how much of the parking lot would have extended over into the other property?
30 some odd feet.
Okay.
I don't think it's quite that
Really?
much.
No, it looks like.
No,
it appear to be
it's not. no.
Lot.
7 or 8.
It's like
10
8 to 10 feet.
8 feet as it's written somewhere along here.
Yeah.
It says 33 feet here.
Yeah.
No, under Tad's note.
Yeah.
We might change.
So,
Yeah, it's
okay.
not, I mean, if you look on the survey, it's clearly not 33 feet. It's not marked what it is.
Yeah.
It can't be 33 feet.
Well, that
Under
would make it
Tad's
even
note, it says
easier.
8 feet.
Yeah, we've measured it, it's about 8 feet.
Well, Dave
It's less than.
had said approximately 8.
Okay.
So,
On the 200-foot road frontage, how deep does that have to be?
that's a good question.
Because there's only 25 feet right now to that parking lot.
That's the
Yeah.
question. we-
Well, right, and that's the big question for Tad and the code enforcement officer is
Well, you know,
what we can do.
I just thought that it might actually create the same problem, because there's lighting towards the front as well. It would spill over into that new front strip if,
Not necessarily. If you put up a fence, because your lighting comes down at an angle, that fence would stop it. So, you know, again, you could address that with the proper buffer.
Right.
Right, yeah, the illumination will, diminish with that fence, no matter what we do, because we're looking at a 50% coverage, 3-inch open.
Yeah.
3 inch.
we should,
Looks doable. I
we should be
wanted-
clear that all these options, we are not sure if any of them are Actually, a lot, so.
We're not recommending anything.
Yeah, no, these are maybe possibilities, I hope at least one of them could work, but.
So how do we go about this? Which one do we pick?
Well, you
All
work with the
Yeah.
planner,
Okay.
work with the planner,
And your lighting consultant.
and look at the options.
Well,
Because we've met with Tad twice and Jim on this, and that was Tad's recommendation.
right.
But the way it is now,
Tad, this is what happened on August 6th. Tad said we won't need a planning review. The buffer can be met with a 7 to 8 foot fence.
Correct.
Buffer has to be about 8 feet back from the property line. Lighting can be addressed because of the 0.5 illumination, and if they can be adjusted and dimmed or, you know, redirected, that would eliminate any more of that 0.5 illumination. And he asked me to call Jim, who was part of the group that actually did the consulting when it was done for the Griffith.
First one.
And I called him, he said, and he's the one that told me that each one of those lights can be turned off individually or dimmed individually, and they can be redirected. And then Tad said that the buffer basically has to be at least a minimum coverage of 30%. We're at 50%. So it's not like we haven't met with him. We started this back in August, and that was his recommendations back then.
Well, what you heard today was our concern. Now, you come up with a solid plan, that's the next step, and present it to us. We're gonna be looking at those concerns. If it meets the ordinance, and that's where consulting with Tad will come in, if it meets the ordinance, whatever your plan is,
Mhm.
it'll be fine as long as it addresses our concerns.
And how often?
So if you know, a photometrics plan that showed the illumination levels didn't exceed the 0.5
Yeah.
at the new property line, wherever that ends up falling.
Yep.
You know, things along those lines that gives us the technical background that we can make our decisions.
So maybe we'll bring Jim back in and ask him to do another study on this and figure out what it's gonna be with re-angle or the dimming of the lights.
That's right.
Okay, all right.
and,
So really, the issue is the lighting. That's really,
yeah,
that's,
Lighting and proper buffering, you know, they kinda go together, right?
but
But
buffering,
we're
we know,
sort of conceding that the fence
Fence
is an
can
adequate
meet
buffer.
it.
Right.
so we know the fence will work as a buffer.
Right.
So really, the issue is the lighting that we have to
Yep.
really
yeah,
get grip on. Okay.
and you'll have to have that deeded easement if it stays as is, so that would,
Won't happen until the property sells, but yeah, it'll be part of it.
yeah,
So, how do you wanna, how would you like me to proceed with that?
well,
I mean, we're ready to close on this November 13th. One of the issues we have is, the buyer has a 1031 exchange that has to be exercised, which is property exchange right, otherwise he loses that tax credit, well, tax
Yep.
incentive.
We have, in order for us to go ahead and approve, we have to have, you have to have presented to us right title and interest to the property, which would include your easements.
yeah, you'd have
Well,
to.
purchase and sale may not include an easement, but if we stipulated the easement as a condition of approval, then that would,
When they could help.
then they could do that.
Right, I'm sorry, I haven't gone through this before, so some plain English on what you're talking about, please, just help educate me.
Well, there is the pavement that spills into the new lot.
Right,
You'd have to have an easement for that.
right.
So whoever the new owner is, understands, that's what they're buying. It comes with
Yeah.
that strip of pavement with the fence beyond that.
Yeah, because the fence was, I believe in your discussion, was said to be at least 8 feet back. And I think that's to go to the end of the pavement, actually, so that you don't have to dig that all up.
Yeah. So, and we'll,
So that was just.
so when we,
Site condition.
if this was ready to be approved as is, we would put in our condition of approval that easement is a requirement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
have
in,
Neil.
in the deed when we
Right.
do the.
Yeah,
closing.
so
Got it.
then, when you go to sell, you'd have to build that in.
Right, got
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Right, that helps, thanks.
okay.
But the fact, well, when we met with Tad on August 6th, the buffer fence, so if you look at the plan where it's got that line that we're talking about, when you jog or whatever,
Yeah,
the fence would have to go to the right of that. And probably put it a few feet there just to allow for, if there was any service or maintenance on the fence, you could get behind it, for example. That's what I had in my notes from.
Yeah, that your easement
So it's
would,
not, I'm sorry, the fence doesn't go at the end of the parking lot, it actually
Right.
goes to the right.
And that's,
right, and,
that's another
and,
reason you need the easement.
right, and the easement would provide you with
Access.
the ability to access, to maintain, do whatever you need to do for
Okay.
essentially your fence.
and that would all have to be added to the
Yeah.
map too. But you have to show where the boundary of that easement would be.
Got it. Okay.
Show and tell.
And the location of the fence as well.
Okay, got it.
So it's a little tricky, but
Doable.
it's doable.
Yeah, I mean, we've just got a couple things that we gotta really work out here.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it simple for you.
How's the timing look on this? When's the next
every 2 weeks.
meeting?
Yeah, in 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, beyond that, anybody see any other issues with?
Now,
No.
for a question, one question I do have,
Yeah,
since this is a subdivision and everything else, we do not need to hold a public hearing, do we? That's the question.
that's, I thought it was just.
Is it a
residential.
subdivision?
This
Is
is
it
a
a
formal subdivision.
Yeah.
This is not
Separation.
a,
It's a split,
Yeah.
A split, that's why
Correct.
I'm calling,
yeah,
I think
and
it's,
that's my only question that I had.
anybody sure about that? Jamie?
That's a good question.
I don't think it needs it.
No. it doesn't.
I asked the
There's only-
CEO. and
There's
he
only
said-
two lots involved in it.
Two lots.
Right.
Just splitting a lot.
It's not, it's not a subdivision.
Now, what about, anybody see a need for a site walk?
Well, we don't know what we're sidewalking until we have a
That's
picture of
true.
it, I mean,
Okay, so we.
A lot of nice cars out there, guys. I mean, it wouldn't hurt.
huh?
A lot of nice cars out there. It wouldn't hurt.
Well,
I know
Try
about
some
cars.
I was gonna compliment you on the business, it really looks good, it turns a lot of heads.
Yeah, well, thank you, we're very proud of it, and the new location and the welcome in Arundel has been terrific, so it's been great for the business. and
Wonderful,
we're-
it looks great, and I hope you're doing well.
Yeah,
because,
we're continuing our
I know a lot of
community,
people talk about it.
that's great, we're continuing our community outreach as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting our 4th year, partnering with the Biddeford Regional Center of Technology, a high school internship program, which is Arundel students,
Excellent, yeah.
as well as others.
Well, it's nice having you in town.
Thanks.
In that case, no.
If I may, just one question.
Yeah.
This is part 1. There's a part 2 that when Motorland buys this, would be the construction of a warehouse building. And we've been meeting with Tad and Jim just to get some preliminary guidance on that.
Yeah, on the parcel that you're purchasing.
On the parcel that we're purchasing, it would be roughly a 13,000 square foot warehouse running the,
Indoor storage.
yeah.
Would that be,
Kind of like what Wazoo is doing with the marina, just,
Yeah.
just a place to keep them covered under the
Cold
weather.
storage.
Northwest
Cold
of the
storage.
parking lot.
Pardon? Behind the parking lot, kind of running parallel. It's
Yeah.
60 feet wide by 220 long.
Yep.
Right where it says remaining parcel
Yeah.
area,
right
4.9 acres, right in that area.
yes, so we have to stay out of
So
the-
is there any,
Looks
as we're
like the best
preparing
area
on
down
that,
there.
is there anything that we need to be preparing or planning with you folks from that?
No, just check the ordinance and work with Tad,
Yeah.
that shouldn't be any big deal.
The access,
Yeah,
The
I
other thing,
remember
the
the
only
thing
thing
we
we
already-
would have to do a sidewalk there.
for
Right.
that, yeah, for
For
that,
that
we
one.
have wetlands that you have to be certain distance from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Tad's given us some guidance on that. It looks pretty,
But yeah, plenty of room for it.
you
yeah.
may not even have to come, depends on how big it is, you may not even have to come back before us.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
No, 13,000 square feet, so yes, we'd have to go
What
back
is
to
it,
the sidewalk.
13?
Yeah.
That's what he just said.
Yeah,
Okay,
Right.
so that's down
Yeah,
the
16
road.
back, or
so
60
we're gonna
back.
try to move
200,
that
Right.
pretty
Right.
fast as well.
Okay,
Because part of what we did leaving Biddeford was we vacated a 13,000 square foot warehouse, so we urgently need to replace that
Well, you're in the right location for that, so it shouldn't be a big issue.
And I get a feeling that's gonna be a little cleaner and simpler than this.
As far back as it is, shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, so.
So I got it, so it's the lighting that I'm gonna address within the next 2 weeks, and the easement that we'll address. So, and, yeah, we'll have it all on there, where the fence goes, where that buffer is on this particular.
Go to the code and the planner first, because if you can either remove the lights or turn them off and you're fine, there's no need to go through all of the other stuff.
The CEO or?
Yeah, that CEO is code enforcement.
Jim?
Jim. So Jim would be the one that would take care of that?
He can tell you about the lighting fixtures and the dimming, can it redirect and possibly meet the ordinance requirements.
Right.
Tad would be the best one to talk to say, do you have to have any lights out there? Maybe you can just take them off.
Got it, okay.
Those are
If he says-
those are your options.
Sure, so if he says, yeah, no, you can take them down, then he tells you guys in the next meeting, that's,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
We'd have to.
as long as it meets the ordinance,
Yeah,
yes,
right.
we'll be
Sure,
informed.
yeah.
Yeah, that- he would include that in
Operation, hours of
our
operation.
notes from him on
okay,
ultimate approval.
got it, all right.
Okay,
I'm gonna try to keep the lights by, you know, redirecting them and lowering illumination. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
It's a cool car, so check it out.
Great, thanks.
We have a 65 Mustang. I do all parts and everything.
all right, so
Really? Yeah.
the next item on the agenda
It's exciting.
is a new application for, at 784 Alfred Road, site plan reapplication, proposal to convert a residential building under construction to a 3,012 square foot commercial service structure containing a Servpro business located on a 1.77 acre parcel on 784 Alfred Road, tax map 4, lot 32, in the AR district. So Matt and Lisa True are the owners applicants. Is it Matt and Lisa?
I
Okay.
think actually it's, I believe it's 782.
784.
No, it says
The
on there.
address is 784, we have the wrong address.
Okay.
I believe,
Okay.
Depends on who typed this
Oh,
up.
yeah, different things. This does say 782. It
Yeah,
says
right there.
Yeah, but it says it on the agenda.
No, I'm talking about,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
That's the mistake from.
Yep, we'll make sure
one
of
other
that.
slight change to the agenda also, it's actually 2,820 square foot, you know, ground surface, not 3,012. So it's a little bit
2,820.
smaller.
Okay. All right, good.
I don't know where that came
All right, I'm not sure how that happened, but
from. I mean,
I don't
it's
know
not
if
much
it'll make
bigger,
a
but
difference
they're not much
either
smaller.
way.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So you have an unusual situation as well.
Yeah, the business that we're in, 95% of the building storage. There's my wife and I and our office manager that's gonna be working there. All our services are off premises.
We
There's
don't
no
have
foot
any
traffic.
we don't have any customers.
Right.
It's interesting, though, because when we purchased the property, it was residential. We knew that it was gonna be, you know, commercially zoned, or we knew that that was up for discussion, and we came to a town meeting, we met a couple of you, talked to you, and it sounded as though that was gonna be a go shortly, and so we're like, well, let's just build a residential structure, let's kind of move there, because we're gonna plan on moving in this area anyway. And then, you know, run our business from there as well. So that was kind of the original plan, thinking that, well, then we can move it to, you know, we can convert it to commercial. And once, you know, once the zoning does, you know, expand and kind of, but let's figure out what the requirements are. So we got the residential permit and we, you know, we commenced building. You know, honestly, we're kind of at a standstill now, just because we're trying to, we need to get the electrical inspected and just a couple of things done, and I think we're ready to move forward again and kind of finish up the building. But we've had a couple of thefts because the building's unsecured, and so we unfortunately lost a lot of lumber. We just lost a generator, we've lost tools, we've lost lifts, we've lost probably $10,000 to $15,000 worth of things because we can't secure the building. So it's been, that's been kind of, I've been pretty discouraged about that, you know, because We need to get lights out there, we need to get doors, we need to get overhead doors in place, and we can't do that until it's insulated and, So, we were going to move there, and were we gonna live there forever? No, these are discussions that we had with Jim Nagel as well, like, we don't see ourselves living in that area forever. Well, let's just kind of see what happens, let's build the building. We kind of grandfathered over pre-existing structure. And so
Tried moving it
that was
back.
not, we tried moving it back, but there was like ledge, and even Jim was advising us too, he's like, it would cost you tens of thousands of dollars if you moved it back into the sort of building envelope. So, it's like, well, you can kind of, I'm not saying that this is on him, I'm just saying that, you can move it a little bit forward, keep it where the existing footprint is, can expand it sideways, but not towards the road. So, there's a lot of things, that went on. So we're exactly over the existing structure, except we're a little bit wider. From when that original building was built, we've lost a lot of road frontage because the road has expanded. And so that, I think, is one of the concerns that, has been raised, is the frontage that we have, from the buffer that we have from the building. Although, I think, taking into account originally where it was, there was tons of room, and now there's still enough room. You can still back a vehicle out and move forward, even if we technically do the buffer, if it's buffer of grass or whatever, there's still enough room. It would be nice if we could sort of acquiesce a little bit on that required grass buffer so that we could, have a little bit more space. But even if we don't, we still do technically have enough room to, to get in and out. So we're kind of here saying what you guys would like for us to do to move forward to get a commercial permit, basically. As we're building the building, kind of with commercial codes in mind. Everything that we're doing is gonna meet both residential and commercial requirements so that we're not left after the fact, with a building that doesn't meet the requirements. So that's kind of what we're doing. And the drive, I was just gonna say one more thing, the driveway also, it needs, except for on the right-hand side, we've kind of added some on the right-hand side of the building, but other than that, the driveway that we have on the drawing is the same driveway that was in place with the previous structure. So I just want to say.
So I've been communicating with Jim quite a bit, and he referred me to an engineer. We sat down with the engineer and went from a residential code book to the RUC code book and building use and so forth, and did a code review to the construction. And because of storage, there's really no fire codes against the building, because our office space is 10% less than the building overall square footage. So he wanted to refer back to the residential law, thinking that we were gonna be living there. We wanna convert it to commercial. So he went on talking about expenses for storm drainage, parking lot. There's gonna be in excess of $50,000. So my question to him is, geez, if the occupancy is zero, why do we need to, create a parking lot when there's nobody gonna be there? So I called the state fire marshal's office, and he looked into it. He said, no, if it's commercial, you're right, it's an incidental building. He's like, I hope the town doesn't make you go that route because of the expenses. If there was storm drainage along Route 111, he could see it and go into the storm drainage. But again, you gotta protect the environment and so forth, and we're all about that. So since then, we have an engine, was supposed to be done today, an architect put a stamp on the building. A couple things I wanted to run by you in the building is where we have 0 foot traffic. We don't care about a sign out front. There's one other person besides my wife and I working there.
If we could have a sign, we'd like to have a sign. But if you said that, I'm just gonna say, we'd like to have a sign, of course. We don't have people coming in to visit us, but we do wanna hire people from the area. We want to offer employment, so we wanna be able to have people know that we're there. And of course, person.
I think the sign would be no problem.
Okay,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's cool, because it,
And it could be advertising too.
right, you know,
Yeah.
and we wanna be a part of the community, we want people to know who we are, and we wanna know who other people are too, you know, but I think the point is, it's not a store. We never have foot traffic. We may have somebody come and smell, you know, something to say, yeah, okay, that smells okay, you can deliver it to my house, but it's kind of like an in and out kind of thing, and we don't have anybody coming and paying their bills there, or, really, it's just not that kind of a place. So it really falls into a storage, you know, where we're storing equipment, and then honestly, he's on the crew is out on the road the entire day. I'm in the office a lot of the day, but I'm in and out, and then our office manager, and that's it, you know?
Well, just like the last applicant, we have to comply with all the requirements.
Well, sure, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that's gonna lead us, but,
So, but as part of your building footprint that Tad and Jim have in their possession or will, you've got delineated out what is office space, what is storage space, those type of breakdowns, so we could use any of that information to try and say, well, okay, if only a very limited portion of the building was office, can we use that to base any, you know, any required parking? You know, because it sounds like you're gonna need at least, you've got garages out there in the building, I know, but, you know, if you got your office manager, you do have an occasional customer that comes back, you wanna at least have some provisions for parking. And just to make sure
Right.
that we can use whatever information we can to justify what you need.
Right, yeah, absolutely. It's not like we're gonna all get dropped in by helicopter,
Right.
you know, I mean, for sure, that we're gonna need to park, and there's plenty of space for parking. What we're trying to avoid is, kind of what Matt was talking about, sort of a $50,000, you know, parking lot that we're like, oh my God, we can't, you
How
know.
many of your vehicles do you have that are gonna be there?
Just one, an upholstery van, it's a carpet van,
Yeah.
that's parked inside, it's gonna be heated, so it doesn't freeze.
It's one van, and you guys have two personal vehicles?
Two other vans, the employees take home, so they're dispatched from the house.
Mm.
You know, we usually ride together, and then the office.
Yeah. So,
What's the truck?
the van,
Vans inside.
the vans come with the employees,
I think they're dispatched electronically.
so they don't even have to come
Site.
back to the
The
office?
only time that they would actually come to the office is to grab
Supplies.
equipment.
Supplies, drop off
Right.
paperwork, whatever
Exactly.
incidental
Paperwork.
things that they have to
It's
do.
paperless.
Yeah.
It's all
That's not,
electronic.
Okay.
Yeah.
that's not every day, right? Or is it?
Never know.
Right.
You know, with the nature of our business,
Yeah.
it's difficult to predict,
Right.
you know, but somebody's gonna come and need some, either product, you know, or a piece of equipment or something, you know, yeah, because they don't all fit in their vans, you know, there's sometimes if we have a big loss, it'll take a couple of trips.
So one van there, two vans off-site, you said something about a truck. You got-
I have a personal truck.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
a personal truck. A personal truck,
Oh, yeah.
a car?
Probably
There's
assume,
two.
you know, have two personal cars.
that $50,000, how many
Oh, my
parking
God.
spots was he
He
talking
was,
about?
he was going, I think, from the last one he did square footage wise, with the storm drainage runoff and the parking lot illumination lights
Yeah.
and so.
Yeah, and when you get into site work standpoint,
Yeah.
it doesn't take long
Yeah,
to start, to
it's
get to
ridiculous.
50,000, I mean, but by the time you get,
Yeah.
you know, grading,
You start
paving,
blasting
the
it.
light,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
else.
Ideally, I'd like to have it so that we can have parking for our vehicles, whether they're there or not, and somebody's not gonna be going by saying, I have 3 vehicles, or this, or they're gonna have 2. Like, what the heck's up with that? You know, I mean, I don't wanna have that strain over us.
Well,
We wanna meet the requirements that you guys
Yep.
want us to do, but not have to worry about it, you know, so I'd like to go with kind of like, what can we work out, what's reasonable to you?
you're gonna have to submit a plan showing your parking, and that will show the maximum number that you're saying you're going to need. I was just trying to get a heads
Yeah.
up so I could estimate some of the other things, so I could best advise you.
Right.
So,
What number you looking at, Bob? 3, 4?
well, I don't know, I didn't get through it, I guess.
What is
The
this?
fire marshal advised me if he would come down to look at it, he would want one more than a person working there. So it'd be one office manager and one there.
Fire marshal sees one set of rules. and-
Right,
Yeah,
Right.
another set, it makes it more complicated.
Right.
But this came in,
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, I think.
this came in under a, you had a residential building permit, correct?
Correct. Because it was in a residential zone, it wasn't in a commercial zone. So we,
Has anybody talked to you about the difference in the construction standards between a
Yeah, that's why we
That
went
bothered
to
me
an
a
architect.
little bit.
Right, that's why we went to an architect, and he's stamping the building. We built that building so it's wide open. We could drive from the front door right through the back door and out the side.
Okay,
So there's 0 walls inside the building.
so architects were certified. I'm just trying to think of all of the, when I was trying to read through here, all of the.
He called me
different
just
things.
before the meeting, and he had the building all stamped, almost ready.
I have another question, is I see it labeled as existing building, it's with a hatch.
Right.
And what's the darker outline, is that?
That's our building.
That's what it is now? Or-
The hatch is
Broken
the
down
old
garage.
building that used to be there. They,
The
did
hatch
you guys
building-
demolish it, or was it
Okay,
demolished
yeah.
before you guys?
We demolished it.
Okay.
So you right now have an L-shaped building?
that's right, yeah, exactly. So this structure here is what we've built,
Okay.
and this one on the inside was the previous
Previous
structure.
There's a service station, a hot rod club.
This this guy would have loved it, probably.
So you're not looking to expand the building anymore?
No.
No,
Okay.
What
no.
we have is what we have.
What is A, B, C,
That was
one?
That was kind of what was existing,
That goes back to the.
Driveway.
you know, the driveway.
If you look here.
Yeah, okay, I
And
didn't
then
have
if
to
you-
read the legend, I'm sorry.
And if you go to the picture, it'll
Yeah.
go each one.
It's actually wider to the septic. I think I put 25 feet, it's actually 52 feet.
25 feet was kind of the existing drive, and then it's actually 52 at the septic.
And this, is there a well on this property?
There
I think
is.
they both.
I think backwoods L off the right hand corner.
If you were gonna do any of your parking, just question, can you, instead of it being up front, can you come back to where A is?
It is gonna be parking under.
Yeah, behind the building.
Correct. I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm saying is, for the idea of setbacks or anything else,
Yeah, A and B. We have 32 feet where B is,
yeah, we used to.
from the building to the wood line.
Yeah.
is
And there's a,
32 feet.
and I don't remember the threshold,
We could park there,
after
we could
some
park
number.
there.
And we
you
could
need to
actually,
pave
there
it.
were just trees there, you know, I mean, we have more property that we could expand it to if we needed to.
So one of the things we'll have to determine is how many spots should be required. And I don't know what the formula is on storage.
One is 1 per 200 square feet. That's for a commercial building.
Right,
Yeah.
commercial or office space, anything like that,
Correct.
that's pretty standard.
So that's quite a lot of parking for a storage building.
To go back.
Well, and that's where I think that breakdown is gonna be critical, because I've worked on projects before where, you know, they're very multi-use inside the building, and, you know, a restaurant, for example, you know, you base it on the number of seats, you know, not the other things, because it's a lot of kitchen, a lot of extra areas.
A lot of
Right.
Iowa. Can we go back to the delineation then? You guys had mentioned, you know, the office and the supplies to be just as critical to get your residents, bedroom, kitchen, bath, store, you know, those things that make it a residence?
Yeah.
Because that would all come off of that business one you
Right,
Would that be upstairs?
go to.
Upstairs, yeah.
yeah. But right, and that's, I mean,
But we're looking strictly to go commercial, not live there. That's
Yeah, but
kind of
I'm
what
just
we
saying,
did.
upstairs would be, you know, your basic, but it also too, it would be for the idea of security, on-premise security.
Mhm.
So let me, I'm confused. Are you planning on living there or not? You prefer just build
I
it?
have to be honest, I was until
I
we
want that
got
crystal
robbed like
ball.
3 times.
No, I mean,
And then I
I'm
got really
basic
scared, I
security.
got really scared to live there, you know, honestly, I mean, it made me really nervous, and then the guy across the street is saying that somebody came in and took the tires off his truck right in mid-daylight, and we're like, oh my goodness.
What kind of
And
neighborhood is that?
I know,
That's what-
Arundel?
it's just busy, you know, I mean, I just think it's a really busy,
It's-
it's right wide open.
It's not that bad. We're
No.
practically your neighbors up the road. We've never had a problem.
So you've seen our
Right,
building?
and
Yeah.
I live
What do you
within
think?
a mile as the crow flies from there, and
Other than the druggies that,
Yeah.
Arundel, I think we've been pretty good.
What, as far as the parking, we do have to follow the ordinance. I would say that the planning board will be as lenient as we can be, understanding the business. You know, we do have to go by the ordinance. And just basing it purely on square footage doesn't work in your case. But you have to make the argument, show us.
Sure.
But, you know, we understand that there are different business types and, you know, there are different ways that we can possibly configure things. And that seems to be your biggest concern, right, is the parking.
Oh, yeah.
That, the buffer, that was Tad's biggest concern, is the buffer
We
from
may
the
not be
front.
able to meet that buffer looking at it.
Now, the question.
We'll have to go
Right.
sidewalk and
Right.
walk and see what is there.
Where B is.
Yep.
On that. It says 27 feet from the woods.
Correct. It's actually 32, but,
Oh, no, I'm just giving you, that's nowhere near the property line.
Oh, no.
no.
No, what I'm saying is,
That we have we have space.
can that, to the woods, could that be extended? I mean,
Beautiful oak trees there, I hate that.
without
They
being
could, yes.
sight, out of sight, I mean, I'm just saying to give you
I know.
maneuverability.
Right.
That's what I'm going at. I mean, because you turn and you have, see where your septic is, okay, you don't wanna drive around that or anything else.
Right.
That's,
Well, you know, we've had parking debates a lot in the past, and
oh, yes.
And I always agree with the applicant that why have all that parking when you might only have half that number ever show up at the maximum time? And then the expense of cutting those trees down too. To me, that doesn't make sense, but unfortunately, our hands may be tied. But John said, we'll be as lenient as we legally can.
Oh, it is cool, yeah, I mean, that's all that we're, I mean, I think that you understand what we're trying to do, and,
Yeah.
you know, the frontage, you know, that, I'll just kind of mention it again, that, I mean, is there any opportunity for us to be lenient on that buffer because of the way the property has moved
Well,
over, you know, the front?
Yeah.
There are different ways
You know
we
what I'm
can configure that. yes.
Okay.
We've worked with people in the past,
Okay,
Yeah,
because
so.
I'm not saying that's where we're gonna,
well,
you know,
you-
have a
we
full
don't
parking
park
all the
there.
way there, you know, but if you
Yeah.
park in front of the building to be able to pull in and out, there's enough room, there's technically enough room, but I'd like to be able to have a few more feet, so that we have, you know, so we have enough room, but there's still enough, like, reasonable buffer there so that it meets visually what you're
Yeah,
looking for.
we
and,
can come
you
up
know.
with a solution. You are so close, it just wouldn't make
Yes.
sense for us to have a full buffer there.
Right, right,
You could just have almost just a wide driveway, and we don't require buffers on the driveway.
right,
You know, that might be a way of just keeping that clear right where you want it to be.
yeah.
So we'll work with you on that.
That's cool, yeah,
Question.
that's cool, because that was the one, I think that was one of the things I was the most worried about, so.
And you did mention a sign, and that's certainly permitted in the area, but there are restrictions on
Some
signs.
Yeah,
limitations.
and we
So,
knew that, yeah,
check that out, but make
Talk
that
to
part of
you
your
guys.
plan.
yeah,
That's with
We
the
talked to
code
you guys about
enforcement officer, but it needs to be on the plan.
okay.
Yeah, just where you want to locate it, what size.
The other thing I would suggest, just real quick, is when we redid the zone through there, we tweaked the front yard setback requirements. So your building window, you know, that's allowed is a lot different than what you show on your survey here. Now, seeing the date on the survey, I totally get it. Your surveyor probably
Did it
didn't
for-
know that, yeah, did it off the old ordinance and didn't know that 2 days before we had revised it. But that front yard setback is now 40 feet, so it's probably officially comes right up through somewhere where the building is, instead of your building being totally in that setback. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but their grandfather,
But that's what I'm trying to get them at, the question is, do you have in your records anywhere, okay, possibly, when this existing footprint was developed? I mean, what I'm going at, the idea for clarification of being grandfather, that's where I'm going.
it is grandfather.
I
It was
realize
about
that,
30
but-
years ago or something like that.
I mean, it's been there for
A long time.
ever, I mean,
Yeah.
But-
We
I think the
we
D
hired
should have.
Amos Gay, the local guy, to actually put on map where the old building structure was, and where the new one was. So,
I'm just thinking for,
So you're wondering about like a deed or some type of,
no, the deed won't show when you build something. I didn't know if there was anything for,
So,
or just a little back history somewhere.
I have a question, Jen, have you received Tad's notes? I'm sure the things that you discussed with him, and what he done is just right down the whole street for us. Just to give us some of the background, but there is something in there about you not being able to get the electrical permit, or is that, am I reading that correctly?
There's a difference between.
I thought the electrical permit, I thought the electrician pulled the permit. He thought we did, the permit has been.
Okay, so there's no tie-up on that, it's like there's no,
There's different requirements on electrical for
for
commercial
commercial.
and residential.
So is that what it is, so you'd have to get
Well, here's
a new permit to make it to commercial
different
codes?
codes.
They had mentioned that they brought in the electrical guy, did it to the commercial standard. So if I can kind of summarize what we might need, we would need that note along that the code enforcement officer has been notified and he received that as well. Which should take care of your electrical. The fire separation, we would need that note from the fire chief or who it was that you talked to. We do need to do a sidewalk though, and the three issues seem to be parking, setback, and screening. So one issue in our notes, there was a third request, I guess, by you guys maybe to be considered as a home occupation. This looks like more mixed use. And home occupation really doesn't fit a service industry, my opinion. I mean, that's up to the board, but just trying to resolve each issue that's.
But even the square footage for home occupation.
Doesn't mean it.
Yeah, no, square foot, it's in the type of
Yeah,
industry.
go use 1,000 square feet.
right.
Yeah, or 10% or something else, yeah. But you, I looked, I calculated,
Yeah.
it didn't look like you were.
But I think you're better off anyway doing it as commercial because it just makes it more saleable if that time ever comes.
Yeah, and it makes
Well-
more sense, and, you know, without we would have just gotten a commercial electrical inspection, we would have gone that way. But then they said, you don't have a commercial permit. So you see, this is where we kind of came into the rub, we're like,
Yeah.
well, we need to get that building secure because we have radiant heat in the floor, and we've got to, before, you know, it gets too cold,
Those
we've
are-
got to get some insulation in there.
Those are
Yeah.
all of those things really, to have a good package come before us, all of the code issues. You have to go through the code enforcement officer for these permits, and it looks like there's a couple that are kind of in between. It sounds like you've got a good relationship with Jim,
Oh, yeah,
he's
yeah.
outstanding, he remembers all of this stuff, I have to always look it up. But the documenting this is probably gonna be key because of all of these things, making sure that we have the fire, we have the electrical, we have that. So I guess I'd move that we schedule a site walk for this, because I think we really have to go out and look at it.
Should we wait till we get a more
Okay.
formal plan, because it doesn't really say where the parking will be or anything.
Okay, it was my understanding, I guess, that the purpose would be to help them determine where
Right, that's
it
what I
might
understood.
be better. In the interim, we can really look at, and I didn't do this all the way to look at, I know that over 14 vehicles, you have to have full bituminous as a mixed use. I think we're way underneath that, so I'm fine either way. That was just my suggestion. Move it on.
I mean, the building is in place,
Yeah.
you know, I think we
As long
can
as
get
there's an architecture stamp for
a
commercial.
feel for the property
Yeah.
while we have daylight in our favor.
Okay.
As far
I-
as buffering especially.
Right, so I would be inclined to try and do a site walk sooner rather than pushing it off until they've got 100% of their stuff in order.
Okay.
The site's killing me, it still looks all grubby. I'm just
That doesn't
waiting.
matter.
Yeah, right.
We go for it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to get it back and get the finished product out there, because we've had a few people stop by. Geez, you gonna clean up that, you gonna clean this up?
It's
We're
easy.
Scrap
trying to
guys.
keep it clean, yeah.
And scrap guys wanna pick up.
It's easy.
I'll tell you the
Somebody
best.
else to complain.
Yeah, well, the people that are stealing, they don't take our trash. We have a
They are on the
dumpster, we have a
Cumberland County
dumpster on
website.
site, you know,
You know,
Just put a small sign out there.
When you
Found at night, we will be found here in the morning.
I said clearly, they don't know
Well,
that he
before-
finds and what he
before-
does with things that he finds on his
How
own.
well it could be, because it
Well-
gets dark at 5
Believe me,
o'clock.
Yeah.
So,
it works.
Not on the
Yeah.
Alfred Road, it never gets dark on the Alfred Road.
the light never sets on Alfred Road. Or should it be on a Saturday? You think there'll be enough light that, it's not that far off the street?
I think so.
So it'll be
It
there.
isn't that big a sidewalk, it's,
Right.
you know,
We're just
just
walking
a
around the
very
building.
small area, so I don't.
It's not like we're looking for all the pins.
Right.
Okay.
Well, no, but we would really want the boundaries of parking A and B.
Yeah, as much as
And,
possible, as much as you can determine, when we come out to the sidewalk, have your driveway staked out, you know, so we can see where at least you're proposing it to be.
It'll be on that left-hand side.
Well, you can also spray paint.
Or
works real good,
52
too.
feet.
Oh, yeah. we can-
Parking and all of that, you know, just so we can get a visual.
Yeah,
Spray paint.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, we with
The
the stake.
line.
Yeah.
I want the whole driveway spray painted.
Okay, so
Well, well, we can do that, then there's your green landscaping.
what are we doing
18
this
cases
sidewalk?
of paint.
Well, before the next meeting,
Oh, yeah.
what's that? Is that 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay, 6 o'clock?
Need a 22nd.
We have
Yeah.
two on, that was a workshop, right, this will be the third. This should go quick before the meeting, so it shouldn't be a problem.
We have enough daylight at 6 still?
It's getting dark.
As
but
long as you
John,
set back, right?
When do they set back?
First of November.
Okay, so
I asked the wife that.
I never know, even though it happens every year.
Yeah.
I never know when it
just turn on the floodlights at the doors, just kidding.
is. Right?
I just know it's spring and fall, because that's spring forward, fall back stuff.
So the 22nd, we're gonna list.
Question.
6 o'clock?
Yeah.
No, my question is, and I'm usually the one balking, okay? To expedite the time, between time and weather and everything else, could we do it possibly next week, during the week, and say like maybe next Thursday? I mean, so that if there is anything else they need to present before the next planning board,
They would give us
they
time.
can have it.
How about this Saturday?
I can't make it
Yeah, I
Saturday.
can't come.
this, plus don't, won't have to
I
do
think
notice.
it's gotta,
Oh, yeah, you have to give notice.
we have to give notice to the public, Ted's gonna have to get it in.
Sidewalk.
For sidewalks and
Sidewalk
open
can give
public
public
meetings.
notice.
Yeah, we're meeting
Yeah.
publicly before.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to,
And the butters have to be notified. So the suggestion was to conduct sidewalk at the next available.
okay.
I know, I would otherwise agree with you, I just don't know if he can get that all done. I don't even know when he's gonna be back.
Well, we'll shoot for 6 o'clock,
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Could also potentially do it next week on Thursday.
That's what
Yeah,
I was
I
going.
think that's what Marty was.
You want-
If he can get, if he can.
I can make that
develop-
easier than 2 weeks from now, so that'll work for me. Do we-
Uh,
Anybody else, anybody
I
not
can make it,
going?
but is that,
Yeah, we
the
got
you
1,000
expect
volunteers
Ted will
over
be-
there right now.
7 or 10
He's gonna
days?
he's gonna try to be in tomorrow.
If he's in tomorrow, that would give him enough time, is it?
7 or
7
10
to
days,
10?
which one?
First available Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's-
first
That's the
available
motion.
Thursday. Yep.
Let's just do that first available. If Tad can't make it and we can't do notices, then we
And
have to put it
he'll
off for 2
notify
weeks.
you when it's scheduled as well as the others.
Okay.
Now, lighting for the ordinance, we'll have to have all that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you have to meet all of the other, we were just going over the, this is initial, you still have your whole package.
And you wouldn't need the lighting issue with the car lot, you wouldn't have to go that far, because you're not having a big parking lot with floodlights and everything, it's just
Right.
overhead light or
We
something.
want light
Yeah.
anyway, you know, for security.
Even
But you would
side,
have to locate them on the plans.
Right.
lighting coming off the building, sideways,
Yeah.
turn around with cutoff lights,
Yeah.
for security purposes.
Right, right,
That's-
yeah.
Not overhead, not like we're playing with motor lamps.
No, they'll be on the building,
Yeah.
and they're, I mean, we have a security system that's gonna be going in, and then we're gonna have,
For that
illumination.
kind of lighting, you don't need a lighting plan per se.
Okay.
You just need to specify the type of light and where they're gonna be located on the
Okay.
building.
Yep,
And then if you wanted to sign where it would be located. And,
The sign, right, think about that, because you might as well roll that all into the plan.
you know,
Okay.
I mean, you got your plumber, or your electrician, you wanna.
Wait until you know
You're
what's
underground.
happening with
Feed.
your
Yeah.
buffering out front before you decide to put your sign. Get that issue kind of resolved.
we might just put the sign on the building, you know, as
That
opposed
would
to on a
work too,
post and,
wouldn't
you
it?
know,
Yeah.
I mean.
it'd
might
be
just-
easier and cheaper.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so I
so-
guess we'll see you
Yeah.
in 2 weeks, or maybe next week, if Tad can get the
Post it.
notice out, but if it's
Yeah.
7-day notice,
That's
or,
what it's okay.
If he can post it,
Yeah,
time, that's where we're going at.
yeah. Yeah, but he'll let us all know whether he got the posting in time, so, or not, so. yeah. If
Okay.
it's not, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
okay.
If it is next week, 6 o'clock, the time we're shooting for,
Yeah.
6 either way,
Yeah.
okay, that works for me.
Can I just ask a question about, so, just to make sure that I'm clear, you're probably really clear, about the electrical and that getting inspected and everything, since we don't have a commercial inspection. Jim went out and said it was fine for the, for
Right.
residential, he's like, it's fine, it's absolutely fine. What do we do now, since we need to button it up?
Master
This is what you
electrician.
were getting at, I know, the
Yeah.
timing of everything, you know, like,
Yeah.
how do we go ahead?
I thought you already had somebody out and did it commercial. I thought he used it for,
Yes, my cousin is a master electrician,
Right.
uh-huh.
And
and
we
he
are-
did it to code for a commercial building.
Yes, but it still has
We
to
haven't,
be
it hasn't been
inspected by
inspected,
commercial,
right,
which
right,
is the commercial inspector
right.
for the town, and I think if I'm correct, it's Jim Pomondon, but you have to schedule that
Right.
for
He
him
won't
to.
do it without a commercial permit.
Right.
So that's what, there's where our rub is, so we're like, okay, we're working to go for code for commercial, we have a residential permit.
Well, that's
so we-
because you
Yeah.
requested resident.
Yeah.
And that's all that was available at the time, you know,
Yeah,
so
that's all
there
you
wasn't
allowed
a
at
commercial
the time.
zone available at the time, or else we
No,
would've just.
that's a tricky one, I don't think
No,
we can solve that.
No.
Yeah, you're gonna have to work that out with the code enforcement officer.
No, but it has to be done with your code enforcement officer, to pull a permit like that, has to be done by your cousin who's the master electrician.
He pulls it,
He has to pull a permit.
but he already has to,
For,
I have a,
he already has a
for
permit.
residential, he doesn't need to pull a permit, if they're doing it on their own. For a commercial, it has to be done by a master electrician.
Which they had covered either way.
But.
They didn't do it on their own either.
No, what I'm saying is, under the electrical law, okay, a master electrician who did their work for them under the code of wiring it as commercial, he still has to pull a commercial permit,
Right.
okay, and he hasn't pulled a commercial permit, because,
So you can't do it until they get their commercial building permit, which is waiting for us for approval, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. We
Yeah.
have the
We're
residential
wait-
permit.
Well, see, we have a residential application, and it was for a residence, so this being mixed use too. So I think the best thing, because there's several little things
Yeah.
that you gotta get in order. One, check to see how you change this, so that you don't have to go through all of the expense. I'm sure there's gonna be some, how you get this from a residential application to a mixed-use, commercial and living application, so it's commercial, but that mixed use gives you the less on your side. You've had it wired for the commercial. Once you have that application, I think,
I asked Jim about that, if
Uh-huh.
he could do it under a mixed-use permit, and he said that the type of business we're in is really not mixed use. He doesn't see it out of that type of building, the square footage.
I think it is mixed.
Well, it's not a home occupancy, it's a mixed-use building, but under the permit that we have now, it's really not a home occupancy, so you couldn't see.
it's not a resident, the one you have now is a resident.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have to pull a full commercial, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, mixed use, by the way, is not the same as home occupation.
Right.
Okay,
So
so that's
that's
why
why
I'm confused maybe.
But Jim is the authority on this, so if he says you have to go this way, you have to go that way. That's just,
So we'll have to wait for the commercial building permit.
So can we do the same one before
So
the
then-
commission building permit?
we can do a sidewalk
Yeah.
anytime.
Sure, no, yeah, and hope that move forward
Yeah.
at the same
That-
time.
That should be paperwork, I would think.
So I,
Paperwork and money, I'm sorry.
No,
No, that's fine. But, so at this point, we should fill out the full application then, am I right?
yeah, you need to get that process started, that application, and, and other than that, we'll see you in, next week or 2 weeks.
Okay. I mean, you guys can let us know, I mean, if it becomes like an ad hoc, hey, can we come sooner? Yeah, we'll make ourselves available, you know.
Yeah,
find out about it.
we can't, because the public has to be informed
Notified.
that we're doing it, and your butters have to be informed.
Yeah.
now storm drainage,
Well, I'm glad you asked that.
That all
'cause it-
depends on your parking lot.
Yeah,
Oh,
it,
does it? Oh.
yeah, and if, I don't know how big it has to be before, do you know, Jamie, how big before storm drainage plan is required?
I don't know if we
Stormwater
have,
permit, I don't think
you know,
so.
from a DEP standpoint, I think they'll be well below any of the DEP's
Required.
acre threshold, I
Yeah.
believe, for
So that should.
stormwater, so
that
that
would-
shouldn't be an issue. I don't think we have any hard and fast,
no.
you know,
And
this
amount
amount needs
Yeah.
to have, you know, other than like Bob said, you know, a certain number of parking spaces needs asphalt.
If you have 40%
Right.
impervious or something,
Yeah.
they're not gonna
What
put it around
what
here.
about,
I don't foresee anything.
like water flow or
No.
anything, that we,
Shouldn't be
No, for
changing.
what I don't think they're doing.
No.
okay, good.
No, the
Pretty much.
building runoff though, I mean.
Hard Rock Cliff, they've
Yeah.
got building
Building.
goes there, and we're not putting
Yeah.
anything else.
And they already had,
From that
they had
standpoint, it is
the,
almost the same as a residential. You know, as long as they don't end up
Yeah.
changing heart and coming in with 6 or 8 parking
Pretty
spaces.
small scale,
Yeah.
yeah.
and they had the road cuts.
They're not
already.
asking for any parking if possible, or too
Right.
much, so it's,
Right,
we have to
right.
find a way to, what's the minimum that would be required, and that, we can discuss next week.
Yeah, I did see that you had sort of a semicircular driveway. Are you permitted 2 road cuts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I checked with DOT.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's surprising.
It is. I was
But it
surprised.
dates back that long.
Yeah, that's
where-
right, if it goes back that far.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that today.
No, but I mean, you do have that, that's why one of the things I saw that's why I was trying to,
Are you planning on keeping
I'll do whatever you guys want.
I mean, you
Well,
know,
that's-
it's-
That might
If
make
you
it
have
easy for
those
the
road cuts
buffer.
and DOT
The
says
buffer
you
can
can
be
keep
just
them both,
in
keep
between.
them
And
both.
keep them because that's
Correct.
valuable, right?
They're-
I mean, that's what I'm.
You'll never
thinking.
get it back once
But,
you,
exactly.
once you let it go away.
Right.
And
And
you
you
could put,
might wanna find out as possibly dating as a thought.
Get a letter
Just
from
for your-
them saying that that's good.
When that was put into effect, the road cuts.
Oh,
It's just,
That's gonna be your thing, to demonstrate on paper each of these things. The road cuts front, here's a letter from the Department of Transportation, fire is fine, here's from the fire chief. Electrical's fine, here's the permit code enforcement officer who's already
Can I have somebody from the state come in and inspect that?
what's that?
inspected.
The electrical? Just
No,
so we can get it
we have,
insulated.
the town has, its
Town-
own- the town has its own commercial
Okay.
inspector, okay? And in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Jim Pomandi,
Yes.
yes. And he is also a master electrician, okay?
Yeah, Jim's very good.
Yeah,
Good. Well, good.
but each town usually has its own electrical inspector and everything else. So, it's not like you have to pull the state in and wait on them.
okay, well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
See
time.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that help you any?
But I think what's been repeated over and over is you want to get documentation for everything. That when you submit your application, the more documents you have, the better you are.
Right. And our biggest concern is buttoning up, securing the building.
Yeah.
And, that's our main concern right now. If we have to put, parking in, it's not, the storm drainage was a big thing. That was a huge thing. That was a big part of the expense that we were under the impression that we had to,
Well, we'll have to go in. I don't think you meet thresholds, but that's one that we'll review as you
Right.
come
Yeah.
forward. Stormwater, it's not totally resolved.
All right.
Okay.
thank you
Have a
so
nice
much.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Arundel.
Thank you.
When you get here fully, but welcome.
Well, I remember when you guys first came in and you were thinking about coming here, it's been a little harder than what we thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, yeah,
You wish you waited those 2-3 months?
no. Just as, I never have regrets in my
It seemed
life.
like if you had waited, you'd had all the answers.
And
I used
building
to-
a house in
I don't
Rangeley.
have any
She's
regrets
talking
in my
about
life.
moving, building another house, living on a lake, what else we got going on?
Looking at Kennebunk Pond, if you guys hear of any property that got available now.
Unfortunately, when you come in, we're gonna approve one thing that you're submitting for.
Well, if you wanted to, our
There's somebody
former
else
secretary
to buy it.
was a real estate broker.
So to sell it?
No, you said look to buy it.
Oh,
She was a real estate broker,
oh, really?
yeah.
What's her
Marie
name?
Virgin.
What's her name?
Marie Virgin.
Oh, I know who it is.
I'm just giving you, asked for a clue,
What else we
so.
got, Tom?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
what we,
Anything
so,
under planners?
well, we are skipping, land use ordinance revision.
Right.
So I'm all right with that. Planners report, who wants to act as the planner?
I don't think we have a planner's report.
Well, we might ask questions to the town manager.
You wanna,
You can run him off,
Run it.
Marty, he'll never come back.
No, we won't. Has,
Good plan.
has anything been submitted through the chain to put about fire hydrants on the selectmen's agenda?
It has.
Okay, that's all my question was. Also, too,
Thank you.
See you
Thank you
around.
ever,
Thank
anybody
you.
wants to just stop by,
okay,
for there, just come on by. Come on by, check it out.
Well, I live like 3 houses down.
Oh, do you
Stuff
really?
they ain't done.
Oh, please, oh, awesome.
no, that's why it's a
Maybe.
bad neighborhood.
Yeah, really?
I know, it's like,
They didn't get my
Did I hear you say you got a new generator?
yeah, wait a second.
I do, but it's not yours.
Thank you.
So does the town manager have any questions for the planning board?
No.
Okay, well,
are we thorough enough?
Yep.
move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor? Okay, good.
Thank you, Mr. Town
Good
Manager.
job, no problem, guys.
Sorry you had to be out so late.